My name is Amaya Athill. I am the manager of First Tee Ontario with Golf Canada. I'm also a PGA of Canada golf professional, and I'm the founder of Black Women Golfers. Growing up in the Caribbean, my parents made me try a lot of sports. So I was into netball, I was into track, but my dad was introduced to golf by his mentor, and he realized, oh my goodness, this is an amazing sport that my daughter has to play because look at all the networking I can do. So he brought me to golf at 5 years old, and that has been my sport ever since. Growing up in Antigua, I didn't feel the barriers. And I think I have to preface that by saying that comes with some privilege. So growing up, I felt like everybody around me was like me. We were all just young women in the Caribbean golfing. When I moved to the UK, after giving up golf for 10 years and restarting in the UK during the pandemic, I looked around and I really didn't see any other Black women around. And I was specifically looking and craving that community of Caribbean women that I'd learned to play golf with when I was growing up in the Caribbean. When I moved to Canada, it was a similar barrier to the UK. I felt I wasn't finding a lot of Black women in the space. Some of the barriers I can absolutely identify. So for sure, cost. Golf is an expensive sport. I wish it weren't so, but unfortunately it is. When you think of golf courses, you think of properties that are large and expansive in pretty wealthy neighborhoods sometimes, depending on where you are. And that doesn't feel inviting for folks who don't participate and have never played in the sport. I'm gonna say one more. As an immigrant to Canada, getting into the golf industry, or even just playing golf in my private capacity, I felt like a barrier was community. I didn't feel like I had folks around me that were or had similar backgrounds and reflected my community. When folks don't see themselves reflected in a sport, they don't think the sport is for them. And even for me as a golfer since childhood, I almost didn't feel like golf was for me. So in terms of overcoming some of these barriers, I created Black Women Golfers because in my journey, I found other Black women who golf. And I wanted to show people that. I wanted to say, hey, we're here. We're now creating spaces for women to learn, practice, and play golf together. When I moved to Canada 2.5 years ago, I had come off the back of spending 10 years practicing law in the UK and Antigua. I hadn't yet been called to the bar when I moved, and I decided to work in the golf industry. I was lucky enough to get a job at Golf Canada, and I managed their First Tee program in the province of Ontario. A lot of these major golfing organizations came together, and these golfing organizations were like, how do we get more kids from diverse backgrounds into the sport? So their response to that was First Tee. So the First Tee program has been operational since 1997 in the States and has since grown to 150 chapters worldwide, including to Canada. But we create community hubs in various regions of Ontario. So if we have a golf course that we're partnered with, we will have a school and a community center that we're also partnered with close by to that golf course. And we're equipping community centers and schools with equipment kits, training, and a few more resources to be able to roll out golf as part of their multi-sport offerings. And that gets done indoors at the school with the teachers, volunteers, and staff. And then in the golf season, we translate those kids to the golf course, inviting them through private link to ensure that they have first access to registration to programs that are happening on course. One of my favorite experiences with the program has been seeing our all-girls programs really thrive. And I think what we've focused on with our all-girls programs is building that friendship between the girls. So we're not just focusing on golf, we're focusing on golf plus some fun activities, plus some socialization. What is already a fun program to learn golf and take it more towards building connections between the participants themselves. Two women I looked up to in my childhood were Serena and Venus Williams. In the golf industry, it was Michelle Wie, Annika Sorenstam, and Nancy Lopez. I'm really inspired by, even though I didn't grow up in her era, Dr. Renee Powell for being the second Black woman to compete on the LPGA Tour. So I spent the first 6.5 years of my legal career focused on human rights litigation. But what it gave me in terms of tools for what I'm doing now is that I'm able to understand issues of barriers to access and discrimination. So applying that lens to the work that I do means that I'm able to find solutions, I hope, to some of the problems that communities face in accessing the sport of golf. So on May 4th last year, I became a member of the PGA of Canada. And what that means is that I had to pass the hardest test in my entire life, even harder than the bar exam. I had to play an 18-hole round of golf and I had to shoot 81. So 81 doesn't sound that hard, but I don't think any golfer ever goes out on the course thinking, I'm gonna shoot this today. So I had to pass that test. I had to prove that I work in the golf industry, and having met the threshold, I am now a member of the PGA of Canada. Being a member of the PGA means that I'm certified to teach golf And I choose to use that certification to focus on introducing BIPOC women to the fundamentals of the game. Golf still seems intimidating. I know, I understand. But what I can say is to look up your closest golf range. And if you don't have clubs, which a lot of people don't, think about renting some clubs. Take a group of friends. Don't go alone unless you feel more comfortable going alone. Take a group of friends and go and try golf on a golf range. So because women's golf is booming, a lot of courses are actually offering group lessons for women. It's a great way to kind of learn the fundamentals in a space where other people are similar to you and they might be wanting to either improve or take a first brush at it. Golf is fun. So take a deep breath and try it because it's worth it. There's a lot of value that comes from this sport.